Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
No one's getting sick here. You know, we're taking our precautions. We're being socially distanced. Many people are wearing masks, but you know, a lot of good is coming spiritually, and the community, at least in some small way, this is not a replacement for our public worship. It is a very, very inferior replacement for our public worship, but it is in some small way an attempt to bind that Christian community together and to keep that Christian community unified, which is very difficult when all of the regulations and restrictions only achieve the separation of the community.
I don't think it's fair that any church, any synagogue, any mosque, any religious service with a building should be closed. I believe that if we have to be in the open, I just found out about this. I will be here every week, rain or shine.
Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and I'm standing across the street from the beautiful Holy Rosary Cathedral in Vancouver, BC, outside in the pouring rain, and I'm not alone. Behind me, there was about 100 parishioners worshiping outside in protest, thanks to BC Public Health Officers Dr. Bonnie Henry's refusal to adjust her discriminatory COVID-19 restrictions against all places of worship. In BC right now, practically everything is allowed to be open except for religious gatherings. It's safe for kids to go to school, but it's not safe for them to go to Sunday school. It's safe for teens to go to youth activities, but it's not safe if that activity is a religious one. And adults, well, they can go to pubs and get their drink on, but a family cannot sit together at a pew by another family that's 6 feet away from them. By the way, that's 3 extra feet than the World Health Organization even recommends for virus prevention. They can't do that, not in BC. This peaceful protest that took place really grasped just how much nonsense the restrictions against the church has been. And at rebelnews.com, we've covered many examples from pastors getting fined, threatened to be arrested, threatened with the CRA, threats of hate and physical violence. So make sure you go to rebelnews.com to subscribe there. And if you actually want to contribute to our legal clinic that helps fight off tyrannical fines that Christians are receiving or other freedom fighters for standing up for our freedoms, please go to fightthefines.com. For now, let's have a look at what the parishioners that gathered here today to worship outside in the pouring rain had to say.
Let men their songs employ.
Why is it important that you're here out in the rain today?
Because it is, for one, my only outing. I'm very, very religious, and I don't think it's fair that any church, any synagogue, any mosque, any religious service with a building should be closed. I believe that if we have to be in the open, I just found out about this. I will be here every week, rain or shine.
Matthew, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's been happening here weekly? Why are the parishioners gathering here?
Well, back in November, when the Public Health Office announced restrictions on public worship, we immediately felt that this was, really quite unfair and unjust to Christian churches who had put in so much work for so many months to keep our churches safe. We complied with restrictions very well in the beginning, back in March, and we've been working, volunteers week on week, every week to keep the churches safe. And in our Catholic churches, there had been no outbreaks, and so we really didn't quite understand why were the churches being singled out for this closure. That's why, as soon as it happened again, we felt that something needed to be done. We couldn't just stand by and allow this to happen, so we organized this pilgrimage. In the beginning, really, I didn't really know how many people would come. We expected maybe 10, maybe 50 people. But But the first week back in November, we got 150 people, 165 between about that many people came, and since then it's been just growing. So we had about 200, between 150 and 200 for the last several weeks, and people from all over the place. So we're from all different parts of the diocese, all different parishes, and some of us aren't even Catholic. There are some evangelical or Protestant Christians here as well, and also some other just non-Christians that have come to support us as well. So it's been quite a good response. Thanks be to God.
And wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of...
How many times have you attended this pilgrimage?
Well, my family and I have attended since it started back in November.
All right, and so you've experienced firsthand on more than one level some of the backlash for standing up for certain freedoms, but you're still here. Why?
Well, we have to be seen, we have to be visible, and people have to know that we're fighting for something that is valuable. Freedom of conscience, freedom of religion is important. And also, for us as Catholics, the Holy Mass is otherworldly. You know, it shows us that we're not just here to exist.
There's more to the story.
Yeah, and to exist and then die. That's not what we're about.
You said you didn't know about this, so what has it been like up until now, not being able to attend religious services?
Terrible, just terrible. Because honestly, because of COVID, I don't go anywhere. The only place I can go is my doctor. And I think because the churches have closed, I've developed high blood pressure, or it's contributed to it, and hyperthyroidism, which contribute to it as well, I think, because of anxiety of not being able to go to church. So the government must open the churches, even if they shorten the number of attendees to the services. At least they'd be opened.
It's quite sombering to drive. When I was driving past, I saw, people bowing and taking a knee outside in the rain. Can you believe this is happening in Canada?
That's a very good question. No, I can't, to be honest. It's still quite surreal that we're actually here having to do this in today's day and age. I mean, I'm from the UK. I come from a long tradition of anti-Catholic penal laws and general anti-Catholic persecution that still pervades society back at home. But it's the sort of thing that you read about as a kid growing up. You read about the English Catholics that suffered under penal laws and stuff. You never expect to experience it yourself. But I guess the response was, when this happened, when they restricted Mass, was what can we do about it? The only real recourse we have is to support our bishop with prayer and to come on pilgrimage. And so that's why what we do here today, we call it the pilgrimage to Holy Rosary Cathedral, because in the Catholic tradition, whenever you want to petition God for something special, then you go on pilgrimage, you offer prayer, and you do penance. And so that's what we do here today. Yes, it's a protest. Yes, we are here to protest the restrictions on public worship and to ask that our leaders may restore public worship again. But first and foremost, it's a pilgrimage to petition Almighty God to grant that grace to us again. So that's why we're doing it.
Well, thank you for explaining that. Now, you mentioned that, to the best of your knowledge, you're not familiar of outbreaks tied to the parishes connected there. Roughly how many parishes are we talking about when you say that?
Well, just in the Archdiocese of Vancouver, there's, I think, 78 parishes. And to the best of my knowledge, as far as I'm aware, there's been no outbreak of COVID-19 in any of those parishes.
So what do you think Dr. Bonnie Henry is really talking about? I've been struggling with this too, when she says that these places are shut down because they are tied to outbreaks.
As Christians, we always assume good intentions on the part of our leaders. And we always do our best as far as our conscience allows, to follow the laws that they hand down to us, assuming the good intentions of these people. But unfortunately, at least in my own personal opinion, and I think in the opinion of many in the Christian tradition, good intention does not necessarily equal common good. And we're here today to say that our right to worship God freely in our churches, it's essential not only for our own personal lives, for our own personal spiritual health, it's essential for the health of society. You know, it's essential for the common good of society. And restricting it does not do anything to ultimately help society as a whole. That's kind of why that's why we come. That's why we pray that it's restored as soon as possible.
Support groups are allowed. AA meetings are allowed inside of church. We've seen movies being filmed inside of churches.
Yes.
So it makes perfect sense. If there's a COVID-19 plan in place at a pub, why can't the parishioners gather inside of their church?
And not only that, but the liquor stores are opened. Everything to do with alcohol. And I used to be an alcoholic. And I've been sober 27 years. So why are the liquor stores open and bars only contributing to the problem of addiction to alcohol, which will lead to addiction to many other drugs?
Now, I think you did have a priest here today. I think I saw that.
We've had we've had a priest from there are several priests that live and work at the cathedral here, and we've had one of them each week attend the pilgrimage, and even address the crowd at the end and give their priestly blessing each week. And that, I think, is in itself is a testament to the encouragement that we're getting from the clergy, because like I said, don't forget the clergy. These lockdowns put a lot of pressure on our clergy, on our priests, because our priests are still doing all they can as far as they are able to support the faithful and provide for the needs of the faithful where possible. And so they're actually under a lot of pressure. And so they can't necessarily come out here to be with us here, because they have to be attending their own people in the best ways that they can. Which is why, we've been very grateful to have the presence of the two priests from the cathedral.
So one of the things is, there's people that walk by. Some of them give us a thumbs up. Some of them are not appreciative of what we're doing. But what a lot of people don't realize, that even though we're fighting to have the Mass restored, we're actually fighting for everybody. That whatever they hold dear, whatever they hold valuable, they're able to do, they're able to participate in, they're able to hold on to, without the authorities say, no, you can't do that. And that's the thing that has to be realized. When I speak at the Freedom Rally, I tell everyone there, I say, look, whether you go to church or not, you should be on the church's side. Because if the churches get shut down, they can shut down anything.
Freedom doesn't discriminate. It's for everyone.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I'm here week after week after week after week. We didn't know if it was going to be clear, rain or snow, but we were coming anyway.
What would you have to say to people who just think it's completely selfish for you guys to be advocating for this?
Well, that's a good question as well. Well, like I said before, the right to worship God is it's essential to our we're talking about our health here, and the mainstream media, of course, and rightly so, is looking after people's health. Yes, we should all be looking after our own health and other people's health. We're not suggesting in any way that we should be disregard other people's physical health, but physical health is only half the issue. Spiritual health makes up the whole of who we are. And without the Holy Mass, without the ability to worship God freely worship God, that spiritual health is being hindered, is being hurt. So that's why we've come here to stand up for the whole spiritual and physical health of the whole person, but also all of society. No one's getting sick here. You know, we're taking our precautions. We're being socially distanced. Many people are wearing masks, but you know, a lot of good is coming spiritually, and the community, at least in some small way, this is not a replacement for our public worship. It is a very, very inferior replacement for our public worship, but it is in some small way an attempt to bind that Christian community together and to keep that Christian community unified, which is very difficult when all of the regulations and restrictions only achieve the separation of the community.
It's the first time I heard about this because I went by my church just to look at it because I couldn't stand it anymore. And I'm so glad I did, because otherwise I never would have found you.
Well, people are speaking from the heart. Even some spoke to me off camera that said, you know, in a lot of ways, church is their only lifeline. And there's concerns, especially about some in the elderly community, about depression and things like that. You got to see Mark Donnelly. You can check out our full report at rebelnews.com to see what the former Canucks Canadian anthem singer has had to go through for standing up for freedoms. And again, please head to fightthefines.com to be a part of ending this tyranny in the fashion of fines by supporting to our top-notch lawyers who are giving free counsel to the people who receive those fines. Drea Humphrey for Rebel News. Are you a church or a business that simply cannot go on any further with these restrictions mandated upon you by unelected health officials and bureaucrats whose service that they offer are not even touched by their own restrictions? Then head to iwillopen.com. We will help you raise awareness about why you and your business or church are essential.